Have you ever been on a journey where you were stopped, like right at the finish line? Well, today, we're going to look at exactly that. A journey that was halted just short of its destination, but somehow it turned into one of the biggest victories in history. Let's get into this incredible story about patience, divine wisdom, and what it really means to win.
So, let's set the scene. It's the 6th year after the Hijrah. That's 6 long years since the Muslims had been forced to leave their homes, their lives, everything back in Makkah. And what kicks this whole thing off isn't some grand political strategy. Nope. It was something way more personal, way more profound. It was a dream.
You see, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had a dream. He saw himself and his companions walking into Mecca totally peacefully and performing the rituals of the lesser pilgrimage, the Umrah. Now, you have to understand the dreams of a prophet aren't just dreams. They're a form of revelation. So when he told his companions about this, it was like a spark hitting dry tinder. It just ignited this powerful, deep longing to go home, to see the Kaaba one more time.
Okay, so they decide they're going. But how they prepared for this journey? Well, that was a message all on its own. It was a massive, unmistakable declaration of peace, and you could see it in everything they did.
First thing, their clothes. All 1,400 of them took off their regular stitched clothing and put on the simple white sheets of ihram. This isn't just a uniform. It puts you in a sacred state where you can't fight, you can't even argue. It was a visual shout that said, "We are pilgrims, not warriors." And it wasn't just their clothes. Look at their animals. They weren't riding in on war horses. They were leading animals meant for sacrifice, and they even put garlands on them to make it obvious. There was absolutely no way anyone could mistake their intentions. This was a spiritual journey.
Period.
And finally, the weapons. Now, on the advice of Umar ibn al-Khattab, they did bring swords, but only the kind a traveler would carry for basic protection. And even then, they were kept sheathed, packed away, completely out of sight. Every single move they made was carefully designed to send one clear message: we come in peace.
But, just because you declare peace doesn't mean you're going to get a peaceful reception. Their intentions were about to face a major test because there was a serious threat waiting for them up ahead.
A scout came racing back with some pretty scary news. The Quraish, the tribe in charge of Makkah, had heard they were coming. And their response? They put on leopard skins, which was basically their way of saying, "We're ready for a fight," and they swore an oath that the Muslims would not enter Makkah, not without a battle. So what do? You're at a crossroads. Option 1 is to go on the offensive, maybe attack some of the Quraysh's allies to create a diversion. Option 2 is to stick to the plan, stay peaceful, keep heading to Mecca, and only defend yourselves if you're attacked first. It's a huge decision.
And it's Abu Bakr who speaks up. He basically says, look, we came here for pilgrimage, not for a war. Let's stick to that. The Prophet agreed. And just like that, the choice was made. Peace was the priority, no matter what it cost them.
And that cost was immediate and very real. To keep their promise of avoiding fights, they had to completely abandon the main road. Instead, they took this incredibly rough, difficult detour through harsh mountain passes. This wasn't some scenic route. It was a grueling physical sacrifice, all for the sake of peace. But here's where the story takes a turn. Right there, on this incredibly difficult path, strange things started to happen, clear signs that a much bigger plan was at play. So they finally make it through the mountains and arrive at a place called Al-Hudaibiyyah, right on the edge of the sacred area of Makkah. They are so close. And then, the Prophet's own camel, Al-Qaswa, just stops. She kneels down and flat out refuses to move another inch. The companions are trying to get her up, thinking she's just being difficult. But was that really it? And the Prophet's explanation, wow. He tells them, she was prevented by the one who prevented the elephant of Abraha. He's reminding them of a famous story where God divinely stopped a whole army and its elephant from attacking the Kaaba years ago. What he's really saying is, guys, this isn't the camel. This is God telling us to stop, right here.
And if they needed any more convincing, they got it. The whole group is out of water, desperately thirsty, and the only well they can find is bone dry. So they go to the Prophet, and what does he do? He takes a single arrow from his quiver, puts it in the dry well, and water just starts gushing out. Enough water to quench the thirst of all 1,400 of them.
So, okay, they've seen miracles. They know this stop is part of a divine plan. But the big question, the one everyone must have been thinking, is just why? Why go through all of this just to be stopped at the very doorstep of your goal? I mean, really, put yourself in their shoes for a second.
You've traveled for weeks, taken the hardest path, shown nothing but peace. Your home, the place you've been dreaming of, is right there. You could probably see it. And you're told, stop, you can't go in. What on earth could be the wisdom in that?
Well, the answer came later, in a revelation from the Quran. And this is the heart of the whole story. God explains that if the Muslims had entered Mecca and a fight broke out, they would have, without knowing it, harmed other believers, men and women who were secretly Muslims, living in Mecca. This halt wasn't a punishment, it was an act of mercy, a divine protection for the innocent and unseen believers.
And that revelation just changes everything, doesn't it? All of a sudden, this frustrating halt isn't a failure anymore. It's a completely different kind of win. It's an unseen victory, one that's built on wisdom and protecting innocent lives.
So, what do we take away from all this? Well, the camel kneeling teaches us that everything, big and small, happens for a reason by divine will. The reason for the halt shows us that protecting life is a sacred top priority. And the whole story proves that sometimes the greatest strength is just being patient. What looked like a total defeat was actually called a clear victory by God Himself, and it paved the way for a peace treaty that changed everything.
And that really leaves us with something to think about, right? In our own lives, when we get stopped, when a door slams shut right when we're about to walk through it, maybe it's not a defeat. Maybe, just like those pilgrims, we're being guided towards a much greater unseen victory that we can only reach if we have the patience to see it through.